Cabinet and the National Energy Crisis Committee met yesterday to discuss this disastrous power crisis that we're currently in at the moment. I understand they're still discussing the issue, going to provide feedback soon. But is that good enough for the rest of South Africa? Sahlulele Luzipo is Mineral Resources Portfolio Chairperson, joining us this morning. Sahlulele, good to have you back on eNCA. It seems every time you and I talk, it's about the energy crisis, the electricity crisis. Surely we can't tell the nation this morning, as we wake up in stage 5, that we're still deliberating, we're still discussing. There must have been something that came out of this meeting yesterday. What do you have for us? Good morning.
Look, obviously it will be a high privileged meeting. We are looking forward ourselves from a legislative point of view to get what is it that will be done. And it's not yet needed today. It's needed by yesterday. And therefore we think that a sense of urgency on the solutions will have to be found. I think we must also acknowledge the fact that the Minister of Minerals and Energy had made a commitment to open up some space for an independent power producer purchase process. And we think that that must be seen in the context of an emergency on the energy space. The most critical thing, though, is that we hope that exercise will address what former President Mbeki has raised, the issue of poor management, which is what we have raised, that lack of management and poor maintenance systems or non-existence of a maintenance plan are among some of the challenges that the power utility Eskom is faced with at this moment.
So whether it's a lack of good management or a management vacuum, a leadership vacuum, do you get the sense then as the chairperson that a change of leadership and a change of management is what's needed? Because we keep hearing about meetings and deliberations and discussions and being told as a country we must be patient, but I think our patience is running out. What needs to change in your opinion, Sahlulele?
Look, you can't be patient at the expense of the interest of the nation, and the interest of the nation is to grow the economies, to ensure that we address issues of unemployment, to address the challenges of poverty that our people are subjected to. Most definitely, the conditions are not conducive for economic growth, are not conducive for the manufacturing sector, but also are not in terms of the input cost generally in all sectors of the economy. So we have to a little bit push up our socks. And yes, I agree, Gareth, if there is a need to redetermine and reconsider management, including senior executives, then the call must be made. But I would say, as a decent person and as a leader, when you are followed by disastrous results, it is also upon your conscience to say, look, I've done all what I could. I think it's high time maybe I leave the way for those whom we may be able to find a solution. At this stage, I think from a management point of view and from an board authority point of view, I don't think anyone, if you were to ask those people, are you proud of what you are giving to South Africans, they can stand up and say yes. So in my view, yes, you have to, the issue of management must also be looked at it very closely.
When you say that anybody in a management position after a time must look back, Sahlulele, and perhaps realize that they're not the right person for the job and hand it over to somebody else, are you referring to Andre de Ruyter?
Look, I can't be personal. The truth of the matter, you also have got chief operations officer, which is the actual person who must make sure that the entity like this one turn around. So you may take out, in my view, you may take out the current GCO. It doesn't mean that it will resolve your problem. Let's look at collective responsibility. I have served in boards previously. I have always argued that consequence management in the public service is one of the areas where I think we are not taking serious. Consequence management also means if I'm a board member and you are a board, and all what you are giving to South Africans is the worst that they expected from us, I will have to then speak to my conscience whether, as a board, are we doing what we're supposed to do? And if we're not doing what we're supposed to do, then why must we then, South Africans, allow us to continue giving them the worst that they expect, similar to manage? But I would say political leadership also must act in a much more stronger way to say, this is what we gave you to do, this is what we expect you to perform. As far as we are at this stage now, South Africans are getting fed up with what they are receiving. And therefore, bold leadership and bold steps by political leadership must be taken.
I asked this question in conclusion, Sahlulele, as well. I see the Energy Department going to sign some independent power producer contracts today, put some projects into play. Why is it so difficult? Why is it taking so long to get these projects underway? Why is there so much red tape? Surely we would take all the power from anywhere we possibly could to get rid of stage load shedding in our country.
Look, I hope, Gerard, anyway, it's your job. Look, I always say, if Mr. Luzipo is not performing, that can't be the reason to look for something else. The question of renewables or alternative sources of energy is a requirement in terms of addressing what we call the just energy transition, of which at the core office to deal with the issue of low carbon emissions. It should not be seen as a substitute of a failure of an entity of the state. The failure of the entity of the state is a matter on its own. And therefore, I wouldn't say there are red tapes, but obviously we agreed in terms of the independent power producer program that at different intervals, this is what will be done. And I think the issue now that becomes urgent, which I think, if I answer your question, but I can't answer for the department, the minister will. But if I were to say to you, the failures are now of our power utility, Eskom, have now placed a demand that this is what now you must look at as an alternative to Eskom. And I think if we look at that way, we will continue to have this exercise where in the public service or public sector, if you don't perform, we look for another person or for another alternative. That is why in the public service, when people don't perform, then we go for consultants, but we have employed people to perform the job. So people who are supposed to turn around Eskom must do their work. The program of independent power producer must also continue at a pace that it has already been determined.
I appreciate your time, as always, in speaking to us, Mr. Sahlulele Luzipo, Mineral Resources Portfolio Chairperson. A lot to unpack, as you can hear, though, not much coming out of this private meeting, we're told, with the Cabinet. No idea what is happening with the electricity in the country because it's all taking place behind closed doors. Frustrating, isn't it? We're back.